Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Free Account Ironman Challenge. If you do not know what that challenge means, I highly recommend watching one of my older videos. In short, I am not allowed to trade with any other players, I cannot accept help in any form from other players, I cannot use the market, and ever since the last episode, I cannot access any quest items if I haven't defeated the enemies that protect those. Join me today as I endanger a species, grow powerful enough to wear a ring, and mercy kill a man trapped underneath a collapsed house. Picking up where we last left off, I first had to spend a couple good hours trying to regain my fighting skills. For reasons explained in my previous video, I had to make the change from swords to axes. I used the white deer strategy for training. While they are probably the best option for now, from time to time their amount will drop too low and I am bound to make some forcible pauses. During one such break, I decided to make a trip to Burning Shadowthorn again. This time my only goal was to obtain some coal. I was in dire need of weapon upgrades. The halberd that I was using, while having 35 attack, which is quite high, its defense stat was an abysmal amount of 14. Even the weakest of enemies could easily penetrate my block. The first most obvious upgrade would be a heavy trident. I highly doubt that there is any player who used it as their main weapon before. It's a pretty rare drop from Deepling Scouts. It also has an attack power of 35, however its defense is slightly less laughable, a solid 17. Of course, in order to access the Deepling Scout area, I first needed to unflood the sunken mine. Operating the pumps costs about 220 pieces of coal. While quite tedious, it is possible to farm that amount in a single day. Deepling Scouts were going to be a goal for me, whether I switched to the axes or not. They are a very solid source of life rings which drop pretty often from them. They also yield a decent amount of experience and give you quite good loot. Unfortunately, once you open the mines, the Deeplings will be trying to flood them again. The only way to stop that from happening is to kill enough of them in a single day, or at least that's how it used to be. At some point, in a couple past years, there must have been an update that changed everything. You no longer need to access the mines every day, you only need to make sure that in the past 5 days there were 600 dead Deeplings. Thanks to that, you no longer need to farm coal every time you have to skip a day of farming there. Sadly, I was soon to realize that my gear was nowhere near good enough to fight any Deeplings without a huge waste. Once I had enough coal, I went to check on the mines, and to my surprise, they were unflooded. For a moment I considered whether I should be allowed to enter the mine or not, but then decided that it was pointless to wait for the mine to get flooded just to unflood it again and halt my progress by another day. As you can see, the Deepling Scouts hit very hard, and my weapon still doesn't deal enough damage to make it profitable. On average, it costs me 1 mana potion to kill a single Deepling Scout. For a moment I considered whether I should turn back or not, however I couldn't imagine having to do certain tasks without the heavy trident. I clenched my teeth and, albeit with a huge waste, I was able to finally obtain one, having only killed 72 Deeplings. I then decided to make good use of the rapid respawn event that was taking place by farming some more protective charms in the Amazon Tower area north of Carlin. I actually received a pretty rare drop from a witch's hat, very well ahead of the schedule. At that point I don't think I have killed anywhere close to 100 witches, and that hat only drops 1 in a couple thousand. Sadly it has no use to me, so I guess it will be a collectible sitting in my depot chest. The next day, Tibia gods decided it was a good day to boost rotworms. That respawn and the XP boost, combined with rapid respawn event, changed every place that contains rotworms from completely unviable to probably the best I could hope for. I was obtaining unholy amounts of gold, as well as going about 70k EXP per hour. I abused the rotworms for as long as I could, and then finished leveling myself in a couple different places. At long last, I was level 50 and ready to do stuff. Firstly, I went to the depot and grabbed the butterfly ring that I secured earlier. I then bought a bunch of strong healing potions, 100 explosion runes that I realized I cannot use yet, and a fat stash of mana potions. I was on my way to the first big challenge that stood before me. Deep in the pick and shovel mine, there is an area guarded by 4 giant spiders. The way leading to it is also swarming, with vast amounts of dwarf guards. I was able to avoid fighting some of them by blocking them off with a firebomb rune. I then ventured deep into the tunnel and squared off against a giant spider for the first time. Like I expected, me using a 200 weapon was a huge handicap. Despite having the butterfly ring increase my defense by 2 points, I was still taking huge damage from the giant arachnid. Having dealt with the first one, I then casted another firebomb to the north and defeated the second one. It was a very tough fight. If I took my eyes off the screen for just a second, I could very well die. I was also trying to kill those giant spiders as soon as possible, to avoid having them respawn at my back and killing me. I also helped my damage output by casting some heavy magic missiles I bought in a shop earlier. Ultimately, I was able to break my way through and obtain the Crusader helmet hidden between the bones of some unfortunate fellow. Crusader helmet is definitely an upgrade, though not a great one. It only increases my armor rating by 1 compared to what my previous helmet, the Crown helmet, offered. I was done with the giant spiders, but an even more challenging enemy awaited. For a while I seriously considered not going yet and waiting till my skills were higher, but in the end my impatience got the better of me and I headed straight to the abandoned ruins of the Green Swamp Villa. I was equipped with a couple of protection amulets that I received from Valkyries earlier, as well as 100 strong healing potions and 100 small mana potions. I picked up a key stashed away in a tree for some reason and went down inside into the mansion. I followed a trail of parchments left behind by an unfortunate man who apparently built his house in a swamp and had it collapse, trapping him in the cellar with a small amount of food and water. The man decided to seek freedom by digging a tunnel and dug his way into some sort of underground caves filled with beholders. For some reason, the creatures weren't aggressive towards him and actually accepted him. In the end, the man decided to reject his humanity and also changed the kind of paper on which he would write his diary. He became a Black Knight, for some reason gained high resistances to many sorts of magic and also forgot that he has no source of food and now just sits there underneath his mansion in a nice round burning room guarding his old armor that he mentioned he wouldn't use anymore. Despite all that, he is a very dangerous enemy. He can hit combos up to 500 damage and also has an incredibly high armor rating. At first, I was sure that I couldn't defeat him at this time. I was going through my potions very quickly, and even though he cannot heal himself, his 1800 hit points was way too much for me to get through, especially since I had to chuck potions like crazy to stay alive. I was this close to retreating, but then I had an ingenious idea. I used some of my firebomb runes that I had stashed away after the giant spider fight and created a trail of fire, along which I would run back and forward, slowly chiseling away at the Black Knight's enormous HP pool. Even though he only takes 5% of fire damage, which meant each step only cost him 1 HP, there were a lot of steps to be made, and I made sure that he would regret every each one of them. Soon enough, the Black Knight was dead. He didn't drop anything of value, but I had access to the quest items that he was guarding, the crown armor and a crown shield. The crown armor was entire 2 armor points higher than my previous noble armor, and the shield was incomparably better than the Bonelord shield, even though I wouldn't use it that often. I quickly noped myself away from the mansion, hoping that the Black Knight would not respawn anytime soon, and realized how far away I was from farming that guy reliably. My final goal was to obtain a better weapon. However, that one would not be realized just yet. You see, I have a couple options, and the best one for now would be to do the Naginata Quest. Naginata is a base 39 attack weapon with a decent defense value, and it would serve me well in many situations. Sadly, that normally underwhelming weapon is being guarded by 2 Dragon Lords. You all saw how risky the Black Knight fight was, and that guy can only hit for about 500 tops. A Dragon Lord has the potential to deal 670 damage, about 220 melee and the rest with fire damage. That fire damage is especially problematic because it ignores all types of armor. With my current HP being only 815, I could be quite easily overpowered by just a single beast, and I actually had to deal with 2 of those at the same time to receive a weapon that isn't even that much worth it. Still, I have no better alternatives, so it's not a question whether to do that quest, but how. I did prepare some dragon necklaces for that fight, however they only reduce the damage taken from fire by 6%. I did consider imbuing my items, however in order to imbue against fire damage I would have to prepare 20 dragon skins, an amount of so overwhelmingly rare items from difficult enemies I didn't even consider it for a while. Dragon Lords cannot be trapped by any fields as they walk through all of them. They have a decent amount of natural armor, can heal themselves quite often, and are a major pain in the butt. It took me a while to think about it, but then it finally dawned on me. There's this thing called prey bonuses, introduced at some point in one of the updates nobody cared about. Every day you can roll for a prey bonus that lasts for 2 hours. The bonus can be anything, from additional damage dealt to an enemy through more loot obtained from the certain enemy, up to the one that would change the game entirely. There is a prey bonus that reduces the damage that you receive from a certain enemy type. It can go all the way up to 30% less damage received from the enemy. That would mean that the highest hit a Dragon Lord could land on me was around 400 HP. Stacking that with a dragon necklace, as well as remembering the fact that most of the fire damage from a Dragon Lord comes from his cone forward attack that can be easily evaded, the whole scenario started to look very manageable. Unfortunately, the entire prey rolling system feels like a huge gacha machine. Every day you get to choose one from 9 rolled creatures. It's usually divided into 3 low tier ones, 3 mid tier ones and 3 high tier ones, with over 400 creatures eligible for being a prey. You can roll more than once every day, but that costs you money, and I didn't have that much of it. Finally, even if you manage to roll for the creature that you're interested in, the chances you receive the correct bonus type, as well as a high tier of that bonus, are quite slim. Once a week you do receive 1 free prey wildcard that allows you to reroll the bonus, so not everything was lost. However, the entire process was going to be very tedious. On the other hand, I still had to work on my skills as well as raise my level a little bit, just to make extra sure that the encounter doesn't end with my certain death. And here I am right now, honing my skills and biding my time, ready to strike the Dragon Lord nest, should a proper opportunity arise. As you can see, it can take quite a while. In the meantime, feel very welcome to subscribe and comment on my videos, join my Discord channel if you want to have regular updates on my progress, and stay tuned for my next video. Take care.